Thank you. I just want to start by saying thank you to everybody for coming out and listening to all of us this evening. It's really lovely to see so many people. One of the things that I absolutely love about being a part of BelongCon is this absolutely beautiful community of voices and conversations that Sophie and Alice have invited me into. And actually, through being a part of BelongCon, I've sort of allowed myself to accept a much more caring and community-minded part of myself, which I think I'd buried for quite some time. So I did just want to start by making that point and just really thanking those two for bringing that out in me and allowing that to flourish. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about confidence in cabaret. As Sophie said, I sometimes appear slightly differently as I do in front of you this evening, as sort of gin enthusiast and drag delusionist Cilly Black. Meeting her was a very strange part of my life, which I never thought would actually happen. I was asked one day if I would like to put on a dress and do some sound cues for a cabaret, and I just went, yeah, of course, fine, that's great. And then this person came into my life. Gradually, bit by bit, and sometimes I do actually feel like she's still coming into my life. I still haven't met her in her entirety, and I don't think she's quite met me in my entirety yet. And it's the evolution of that relationship and the kind of the dichotomy of that relationship that I'd like to talk to you about this evening. When Sophie was sending us some lovely correspondence about the speaking this evening, there was a moment, it was just sort of like some sort of notices, some housekeeping business, and one of the things was that we wouldn't be having any slides for this speech. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning on having any anyway, but now that you've put the thought in my mind, because I'm a contentious bugger, what slides would I have had? And one image that I have seen before really kind of resonated with me in this. And it's a Venn diagram. Everybody knows what a Venn diagram is. Yes, it's the interlocking rings which sort of are compartmentalised to different things. And this Venn diagram that I immediately thought of when thinking about confidence in cabaret was the diagram. One ring represents absolute narcissism, and the other one represents crippling self-doubt. And in the middle, they come together as art. And the art form that I practice most of all is the art of drag. And so it's these two kind of pillars and these two interlocking rings which kind of are the basis of what I'd like to talk about. Now, it's funny that Lucy mentioned shame earlier. Shame is something which I think is an incredibly important part of drag, not just because this mythos that people within drag and cabaret are shameful people, but because when we talk about shame, we talk about sort of the way in which society tells us to behave. That acts that are shameful go against the grain of what is seen to be acceptable. And when I was a young queer boy in an all-boys school in Chichester of West Sussex, I was made to feel shameful on quite a regular basis. I was constantly being told that I did not act in the right way. I would sing in front of a school assembly and the other boys reminded me constantly why that was something that I shouldn't do. And that was something which I held with me for a very, very long time. I began to bury certain parts of myself to become more acceptable to what that society and that culture told me that I should be. When I met Cilly, all of that started to bubble away again, and I rediscovered parts of myself that really I had quashed and, as I say, thrown to one side because they weren't acceptable. One of the great things that I love to do is I very much put out there a character not too unlike Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because there's something about that character which really resonates with me, because they don't care. They live for themselves. They do what they want, regardless of whether or not the two heroines, and the heroine and the hero of that story, find them so otherworldly and ghastly. I think it's quite interesting that Richard O'Brien wrote this character as an alien because they were so different from those which we were supposed to be following as our hero and heroine. So as I began to meet Cilly, I took back control of those things. I allowed myself to be more effeminate in my everyday life. I allowed myself to express my feelings more. I allowed myself to express those feelings in situations perhaps others around me thought, this isn't the right place to express that kind of enthusiasm for this thing. Working as I do at the Chichester Festival Theatre, they decided to put on a cabaret show. And Matt Lucas was comparing, of all people, and he made a joke. Somebody had said that they were upset about their eyebrows, and he, as a person with alopecia, turned around, I wonder what that's like. And I did the classic drag queen howl and click in my appreciation of that moment. And two heterosexual men stood next to me, turned around and went, don't click and yars here. We're in Chichester, we don't click and yars here. And my response was, darling, you're in a cabaret. Here I am a queen. I'll be setting the rules. If I want to yars, I'll yars. Thank you very much. Keep yourself to yourself. It was just a moment of... And that's the sort of confidence that she really began to give me. I think that comes out of the fact that, as I say, there are these moments in life when we're told, don't be that, you can't be that, you're not allowed to be those things. As a young boy, I wasn't allowed to be Angela Lansbury, even though I loved bedknobs and broomsticks. And whatever I could find to be a broom, I would recreate that sequence when she's trying to fly for the first time. And I adored Imelda Staunton and Dale Winton and Tim Curry and all of these things from my teens as I was becoming myself and realising who I was going to grow to be. I was told I couldn't be those things, and Cilly Black has allowed me to be Frankenfurter. She has allowed me to be Imelda Staunton. She's yet to allow me to be Angela Lansbury, but that could be the next step. She allows me to be all of those things that once upon a time society told me that I couldn't be. And that's great when you're on a stage and someone has given you permission to do that. But the beautiful thing about the relationship between her and I is actually because it is such a close thing. I talk about being me. I mean, Sophie introducing me as me rather than her, but the actual scientific fact of the matter is we are the same person. Physically, we are the same person. Yet, I think mentally we couldn't be any more different. Maybe not. Maybe some people would turn around to me and say, no, you're exactly like her, and that would be terrifying for me. And as I've got to know her and let her into my life, and as I continue to be her, she is beginning to trickle down into my day-to-day, where her confidence is becoming my confidence, and some of my restraint is becoming some of her restraint, which for certain audience members at cabarets, that might be a very good thing. And she allowed me to put her name in a show that I was producing. I was talking to Sophie about this earlier. I recently did a cabaret entitled Welcome to the Cilly Black Parade, which, absolute narcissism, twinned with complete crippling self-doubt. I put my name on the title of a show, it better be bloody good. And one of the main parts of that show was a group performance with me and a certain group of very close performers that I know. Very good friends of mine, we performed Welcome to the Black Parade as a lip sync, because to me it reminded me of that boy who was being told he couldn't be what he wanted to be. It just resonated. It was in that time of my life that I started to push these things down and quash them away. And the liberating feeling of introducing that boy and Cilly to one another and allowing them to join together to put this performance on for the public was fabulous. It was an incredibly lifting experience, and she really gave a lot of relief to that boy on that day. And I'm being given 10 minutes, so I'm going to start wrapping up. I think the thing that what I would like to leave you all with today, and the idea is, because not everybody in this room is a cabaret performer. Not everybody here has that shortcut that I was given of getting up on stage and creating this person to allow me to live my best self. But it is about allowing yourself to do those things that Cilly allowed me to do. It's about taking a moment to say, yes, I can do that, rather than no, I should not. I mean, as long as you're living within the law, should not is rubbish. There are certain things which perhaps, no, we shouldn't do. I'm not going out and saying, do whatever you like, because there are certain things in this world we shouldn't do, and there are things which kind of stop us from doing that. But when someone says, don't be that person, don't wear that top, because it's not what you should wear. Don't express yourself in that way, because that's not how you should express yourself in a public setting. Allow yourself to have those moments where you live for yourself. And I think that's how one loves oneself first, is by not removing the shame, but reclaiming the shame, taking that thing which is shameful and go, this is great, and relish in it, and love yourself for it. Not listening to the voices of others which says, don't be that person, don't be that thing. Take a moment, actively, all the time. Learn to recognise the moments where you're going, I'm being subversive. And I'm doing this for me. I believe that is the way that one loves oneself first. And that's why one person comes to do a talk to a room full of strangers and decides deliberately not to put on their wig, their heels and their gown and have that armour, but comes as themselves to say, this is a way we can be.